I can grasp that thought that suffering could be the remedy, you come out of it, but then, and again?
No, I'm saying the suffering itself, if it's a genuine suffering, it's a remedy in itself. Suffering can be deeply healing. Not that we want to invite suffering. No, don't get me wrong here. What is it exactly in practical terms, or even in hypothetical, that you want to understand in relation to that, what love is the remedy for love? Because the question rose on the wake of what we spoke just now.
It feels for me like, okay, that's a nice thought, and how do you love then yourself? But I know how to love myself, but it's interrupted.
What is interrupted?
Loving myself.
Interrupted in what way? I just curious how love can be interrupted. I want to understand it myself.
I cannot answer to that.
Well, in practical terms, like on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, I loved myself, but by the weekend, the love gone out of the window. Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
Then it's not. That's not love. The simple answer to that, it's not love in the first place. Okay. So let's just call a spade a spade. By the way, another English metaphor. Spade is that with which you shovel something. So let's call it what we shovel something with, what we shovel it with. Because it's very important that we do not dwell on some fantasies, some kind of preconceived ideas, and this is what it means to, okay, you know what, one day the world was considered flat. Sorry guys, it's not flat, it's actually a globe we live on.
But yeah.
So this is very important. This is why I want you to hear from you, what do you mean by that love gets interrupted? I know, I understand that it could be due to the limitation of the language, so don't get me wrong. We want to get to the core of this. You see?
Yeah.
Liking yourself maybe could get interrupted. You know, I like myself today more than I liked myself yesterday. My hair looks better today because I use better hair product.
It's not that.
I know it's not that, but it's part of it as well. You know, I liked myself today more because I gave better darshan. You see? I was really eloquent, I really outsmart everyone. And this liking, a good sense about myself. And then the following, you know, the next day was terrible, disaster. You know?
If I want to explain it, it's like you want to be like that you want to have that connection to love. And I'm scared to connect.
Mm-hmm. That's warm already, see?
But it's difficult to say that.
But it's good you're trying to say that.
And I try to connect. And sometimes I can, but it does not connect. I cannot. And then suffering kicks in. Very.
Mm-hmm.
So if you say the answer to love is love, and I'm like, oh yeah, well, I would like to feel that. To one day, to know if something happens, Oh, but I can reconnect it afterwards to that place, but I cannot.
Yes, well, I hear you and understand, and I want to give you a very simple example. The answer to love is like the answer of having a swim is to swim. If you want to have a dip, then you better have a dip, right? You can stand in front of it and unless you dive in, there is desire to dive, be refreshed, right? Unless that we take the plunge and actually get wet, then we can stand and contemplate for a while until we put our clothes on and move on, and then we left with a sour feeling of, I wish I had the swim. Very often we live our life like that, if we're sincere. Because sometimes when this, forgive me for using that term, when opportunity presents itself to love, we consciously bypass it. Or unconsciously bypass it. Or whatever consciously bypass it. We create a pact with ourselves to remain in a safe territory of not loving. That's what this reply is. The answer to love is love. And that is in relation to everything we live, truly. You want to get wet, you have to get wet. You cannot stand on a shore and pretend you might get wet and how it will be. You don't know, the water might be a few degrees cooler. Then it will be invigorating. Or it might be, lukewarm. Still, I decided to plunge, I will plunge. It takes a courage so that I consider that maybe sometimes we're lacking in courage. But I am perplexed when I hear that sometimes there is love for myself and at others is not. It cannot be like that. You need to truly, truly look into that. Because if you say affirmatively that there is love, I love myself, there is this self-love, then it cannot go the next day. Because if it can, it's not love. Love is not something that comes and goes. This is what I meant. We need to get rid of ourselves of these fantasies when we speak about these matters that matter. Love is the greatest force, the greatest power. Literally, it's the greatest force. At the same time, the most subtle force. It cannot come one day and go the next day. Maybe in our culture somehow we became too frivolent in terms of how we use this term love and got confused down the line. Facebook now introduced this feature I saw, like and love, right? It has love as well there. So you can like, but you can love, or both, right? No? Oh, it's a good one. You see, now even the algorithm of the Facebook understands. You have to decide whether you like or love. Yes, I can like myself today and hate myself tomorrow. That I agree. My hair can be better today and totally awful tomorrow, and that will affect my... But love cannot. When love rose there, when the self-love is recognized, then all our life is spent as a great love affair. The life becomes a love affair. We become the lovers of life. Maybe the love will then be projected onto different beings onto different people, at times more intently and more intensely than at others. But the inexhaustible power of love is never less once it is lived. But it can only be known through loving, nothing else. That's why it was spoken from that in view. It was spoken with that in the heart. There's only one remedy to love more is to love and to be broken by that love, not to be afraid to love, because that's what it means. And it's in relation to everything that we do. So take it as an invitation. See it as an invitation. What the poet said, there's verses just come to mind, but I cannot really say them. But it doesn't matter because it's translated anyway. It's like, it climbed as a thief, right, into my heart and stole it completely, this love. It's climbed in. Maybe the door was locked, but the window was left open. Keep something open and love will climb in. It will reveal itself. And also, like, I'm sorry, really, we can beat about the bush, and you want to know the power of love, prepare to be destroyed by it. And that's what we're afraid. Let's face it also, let's actually stop pretending and kind of like, the true fear of love is because we know it's a power. Formidable power. And what holds us is above all else that safety mechanism, because we know that power is going to take us over entirely. That's what we're afraid. That's why there is greater courage to love when we are younger, as it were, less experienced, right? More daring, because there are less safety mechanisms. And that's the very purpose of love, is to literally annihilate us. There are whole perspectives in respective traditions that one consciously gives oneself to the power of love to be annihilated by that power. Everything, the breakthrough is only through love. The path of Sufi, truly, if we speak also, known as the path of the heart, is that. It's to court, it's to prepare, so that you consciously offer that. Offer yourself into that. Offer yourself into that, knowing, and knowingly. Knowing that it will have to obliterate you because of the power of love. And that's what we experience. Every one of you have had at least glimpses of this experience. When we love someone, we become incredibly vulnerable. It's always at the loss of ourself. In this case, is that imaginary separate self. When love comes in strong waves, it has the power to wash away that what we created as these imaginary walls of separation. And that's why it's so frightening as well. We're afraid to be completely absolved by love for another being. If we speak of that dynamics, love between two people, because there could be also love for something else. There could be love for one's expression, for one's profession, for one's chosen field of action. This is also the path of many great artists, was that, literally being incinerated in the fire of creative processes. But that's the beauty and the whole purpose of that. What are we saving ourselves for? Whom are we saving ourselves for? For what?
Yeah, for what?
So let us put a pause here.